In lesson 1-4, we're going to measure and classify angles. A lot of this should be review of things that you learned even in 4th and 5th grade, but we're going to go through these to make sure that you are up to date. So, an angle consists of two different rays with the same endpoint. So we call the rays the sides of the angle, and the endpoint is the vertex of the angle. So in this example, the angle with sides ray AB and ray AC can be named, we use that angle symbol, BAC, CAB, or angle A. Since A is the vertex and there's only one angle here with a vertex of A, we can call it angle A. And the reason we can call it CAB or BAC is because A is the vertex, and you'll notice that's in the middle of the three letters naming the angle. So in this video and in class, you know how to do each of these. I'm not going to go through these in class, but if you want to, you can pause the video and go through them. Number 1 is 14, 2 is 37, and 3 is 10.5. So moving on, we want to name the three angles in this diagram. Now we cannot say angle X here because there's multiple angles. So there is angle W, let me highlight these actually. WXY is that angle. We also have angle, we can also call it YXW. We have angle WXZ, which we can call ZXW. And we have angle, change that to purple, YXZ, which we could also call ZXY. So you have a few options there to name those angles and want to make sure you understand that. We also have a protractor postulate. Like a ruler postulate, if I give you a protractor, you're going to assume that it's measured correctly. The way that you use a protractor, and we'll do this in class, you set up the center of the protractor on the vertex of the angle that you are measuring. Now, you will notice that there are two sets of numbers. So I can see that angle BOA or AOB, which is what I'm measuring, is going to be greater than 90. So I'm starting at 0, and when I come around here, I'm going to pick the number that's 140. Sometimes kids will look at this and say, oh, it's 40. No. The reason there are two sets of numbers is I could also be using this protractor to measure this red angle. In that case, I would see that the angle is acute. It's less than 90, so I have to be using the 40 number. You want to make sure that you do that correctly. I do see a lot of kids who would look at BOA and tell me it's 40 degrees. So you want to make sure that you're not making that mistake. You are expected to know an acute angle is less than 90, a right angle is exactly 90, and obtuse is greater than 90 and less than 180. And a straight angle would look like a straight line, is 180 degrees. Now, you know all of this. Make sure you understand the algebraic expression. So M angle A, that means the measure of angle A, and is greater than 0. So 0 is less than the measure of angle A, which is less than 90 degrees. It's not less than and equal to, because if it's 90 degrees, it's a right angle. And in our purposes, it'll be notated with a right angle symbol. In here case, it's shown in red. If it is greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180, it is obtuse. And a straight angle would have a measure of exactly 180 degrees. So you're going to go through and make sure that you can measure and classify angles. So if I look here at angle JHK and I look at this protractor, it's obviously less than 90 degrees. So I'm choosing the number 55, not the number 125. If I was asked to measure JHK, then I can tell that's greater than 90 degrees. It's obtuse, and I would be using the 125 number. So can you name all of the angles in the diagram and which angle is a right angle? Well, the right angle is angle PQS. You could also call it SQP. You could not call it angle Q because there are actually 3 angles here in the diagram. So there's the right angle, there's angle PQR. I could also call that angle RQP. And there is angle RQS, which I could also call SQR. So those are all of your choices. PQS and SQP, whichever way you call it, are 90 degrees. This angle here and this angle here are both less than 90 degrees, so they are acute. Draw a pair of opposite rays. What type of angles do the rays form? So if I call this point A, B, and C, my opposite rays are BA and BC. Remember, I need to put my end point first, and then the direction it's going. It's going to make a straight line. So that's a straight angle. They use different letters, but we get the same point. So now we're going to talk about the angle addition postulate. This is just like this segment addition postulate. If I have 2 angles, so here I have an angle in red that they're calling RSP, and an angle in green that they're calling PST. If I add them together, they're going to equal the total. So the way we write this is written here, but they said that the measure of the larger angle, RST, is equal to the measure of angle RSP, oh, I have a little problem there, plus the measure of angle PST. I've just rewritten what they had over here. And anything inside the angle here, they show the picture there, makes up the interior or the inside of the angle. So we're going to talk about finding angle measures. This follows the same logic of what we did with the segment addition postulate. Angle LKN, this entire thing is made up of 2 parts. It's made up of LKM and MKN. So it's made up of the 2x plus 10 plus the 4x minus 3. When I do all of this, I can find that x is equal to 23. If I want to now know the angles, I have to plug 23 back in. So I end up finding that LKM is 56. That's LKM is 56. And MKN is 89. And I can also get the larger angle by adding them together. I could add up, if they asked me, they didn't ask me, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. If they asked me, the total 56 plus 89 is 145. So angle LKM, oh, they told me, is 145. Getting a little sidetracked here on Sunday afternoon at 2:54. So now we're going to do the guided practice. So they tell me that KLM is a straight angle. That means it's 180 degrees. Which means that 10x minus 5 plus 4x plus 3 is going to equal 180. I believe you guys can do that math. I'll save you from watching this on the video. And that tells me that KLM is 125 and NLM is 55. You know what? I'm having second thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and do this math for you just to make sure you understand. So 10x plus 4x is 14x. Negative 5 plus 3 is -2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. 182 equals 14x. And then I'm going to take the 182 and I'm going to divide by 14, and I get x is equal to 13. Now I plug that in. 10 times 13 is 130, minus 5 is 125. 4 times 13 is 52, plus 3 is 55. And another guided practice, given that EFG is a right angle, so that means it has a measure of 90 degrees, find the other two angles. Once again, segment addition postulate, 2x plus 2 plus x plus 1, 90 equals 3x plus 3. I subtract 3 from both sides. 87 divided by 3 is 29. So they want me to find EFH. 29 times 2 equals 58 plus 2 is 60. And 29 plus 1 is 30. And 60 plus 30 equals 90. So I know that I'm correct. Consider congruent angles if they have the same measure. Now we talked earlier in the chapter about using equal sign or using congruent. So if the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B, and there's equal because we're talking about a number, then we can say that angle A is congruent to angle B. So when we're talking about the measure of an angle, it's an equal to sign. When we don't have that measure term and we just say the angle, they're congruent to each other. Let's talk about congruent angles. The photograph shows some of the angles formed by ropes in a trapeze apparatus. Identify the congruent angles. If DEG is 157 degrees, what is the measure of GKL? Now it's a little bit difficult to see this. So what they've done here is they have a mark like that. There's actually 2 of them. So that tells you that those 2 angles are congruent to each other. There's 1 angle mark here and here that tells me that DEF is congruent to JKL. So you want to know how to read those angle measure systems. So using this diagram, which angles are congruent? PTS is congruent to RST because there's a single arc. QPT is congruent to QRS. And probably, yes, as I expected, because there's only 1 angle T here, they just said angle T and angle S are congruent. So once again, I would say the measure of angle T is equal to the measure of angle S, which means angle T is congruent to angle S. Use the diagram. In the diagram, the measure of PQR, 3 because that's not congruent to anything, is 130, and QRS is 84, and TSR is 121. Then obviously STP is 121 because it's congruent to RST. And QPR is 84 because it was congruent to QRS. Just like when we folded the paper before, we can fold paper to form an angle bisector. We're also going to go over in class how to create an angle bisector using a straight edge and a compass. We can also double any angle measure. In the diagram at the right, YW bisects QYZ, and XYW is 18. Find XYZ. Well, if XYW is going to be 1/2 of the total because that's a bisector. They're going to be congruent. Angle MNP is a straight angle. So it's going to look like it. And NQ it may not be drawn to scale yet, bisects MNP. So if it bisects and those are equal and that's 180 degrees, then 1/2 of 180 degrees is 90. So I can redraw this like that, NQ. So this and this are congruent since they add up to 180. They have to each be 90 degrees. And the daily homework quiz. Measure of angle A is 90 degrees. That's a right angle. Measure of angle B is 62 degrees. That's less than 90, so it's acute. The measure of angle C is 119. That's greater than 90, but less than 180, so it's obtuse. Angle DEG is 84. So find FEG. So that means that 3x plus 10 plus x minus 6 is equal to 84. So 3x plus x is 4x. 10 minus 6 is 4. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So we get 4x equals 80. So x equals 20. So I don't remember what it says here. I'm finding FEG. So 20 minus 6 is 14. Now, so if ray XY bisects angle ZXW, I want to sketch that out to help me understand. So that's ray XY, and it bisects ZXW. And XZY is 36. Well, there's a problem here because we need angle X. So I'm going to assume that that's a typo and that they mean ZXY is 36. Then find ZXW, so that would also be 36. So 36 times 2 is 72. So I said I'm going to assume that that is a typo because XZY would not be part of those angles. And then here are the problems that your homework comes from. And we'll also put this information here so that we can work on the constructions. We bisected a segment already. Here's copy a segment. And here is copy an angle. And bisect an angle.